Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I'm Rakesh Kumar, one of the leads of HackClub TIST. We're organizing this event. Now, before we move on to the intro to GitHub and open source session by Brian Douglas, I want to talk to you about a few things. Now, I'm not sure how many of you know what a HackClub is. Basically, HackClub connects us to a worldwide community, thousands of other makers to collaborate with, learn from, and get tons of swags at the same time. So we recently started the new node of HackClub at our college, Talking Science and Technology, as HackClub TIST, and it's been less than a month since our inception, and this is our first main event actually. We're really proud of everyone who supported us. So we at HackClub TIST strongly believe in the power of collaboration and how even the smallest guidance can have a huge impact on others. So we are hoping this small session will get you familiarized with GitHub. Okay, so we are really thankful to everyone who supported us, and let's hope to keep this momentum going. Okay, so I'm pretty sure all of you might be wondering what this HacktoberFest is. The HacktoberFest is a month-long event that happens every month of October. That happens in the month of October every year. Okay, the goal is simple. One second. Yeah, okay. The goal is simple. It's to get people interested in open source community, especially to get people contributing to open source. Okay, that's the idea. So contributing to projects on GitHub is intimidating. Like even when I first made an account on GitHub, I was really scared to felt intimidating to me. Okay, but Hacktoberfest is really cool. It really helps us make that first baby step to using open source projects. So in short, I can do a lot of open source projects and also get tons of swags in return. Okay. Also, DigitalOcean is our main sponsor. So breaking down what Hacktoberfest is. Hacktoberfest is a month-long celebration of open source software run by DigitalOcean. Hacktoberfest is open to everyone in our global community. Now, in order to win this Hacktoberfest, we have to make 4 quality pull requests. It must be submitted to a public GitHub repository. Okay. Now you can sign up anytime from October 1st to October 31st. Once you have made 4 pull requests that got approved, you need to get it approved. Okay. You will be eligible for a limited edition T-shirt. So this time you have an option to plant a tree or get a T-shirt. So last time we didn't have this. Last time we only had an option to get a shirt. This time you have an option to either plant a tree or get a T-shirt. So you can do so as per your choice. No one will judge you. Okay, so I guess let's start a small video. Start with a small video message by the CEO of DigitalOcean. Farzan.
Hi, Yancey Sproul here, DigitalOcean CEO, and I'd like to welcome you to the 7th annual Hacktoberfest. Hacktoberfest is a month-long celebration of open source software for all 31 days in October. And in this event, this month-long event, we bring together over 100,000 people to contribute to the betterment of open source software. At this annual event, we have open source projects where developers become contributors, students and early learners, learn more and build their passion and experience. And we gather people together online. Historically, we've done offline, but in 2020, I suspect will be predominantly online. But we bring people together from over 150 countries throughout the world. At DigitalOcean, one of our core values is around community. And the pillar of the language of that value is we say, our community is bigger than just us. And I can find no better representation of our investment and our passion for fostering the global community of developers and entrepreneurs than Hacktoberfest. It's an important element for us because it brings so many people together in this very global way for 31 days, and it generates so much excitement and passion around one of our core value propositions as a business, which is around open source. And what we believe happens during the month of October, Hacktoberfest, not only do we bring people together, but we help people learn and we help people grow. And that's a fundamental tenet of what we're all about at DigitalOcean in terms of enabling global entrepreneurs and developers to test ideas, build their businesses, and chase their dreams. So what we hope that you'll gain is that you'll participate, you'll learn a little bit more, you'll join a project, you'll meet new people, and you'll help make open source software better for the legions of people who use it today and well into the future. So with that, I can't wait to see you all and what you will come up with this year at Hacktoberfest. And remember that for those projects that are accepted, you get the famous DigitalOcean Hacktoberfest t-shirt, a prize well worth earning during the month of October. So until then, be well, and we'll see you in October.
Okay, I hope that video was audible to everyone. Okay, so 1 second. Okay.
Hi.
Now, most. Yeah, okay. 1 second, guys. Okay, excellent. So I think Brian Daggy has joined us. Hello, Brian.
Yes,
yeah,
I am here.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Okay, you can start the session now. Thank you for joining.
All right. Excellent. Yeah, sorry about that. My time zone, I'm based here in California. My time zones are off by 30 minutes. So yeah, apologies on missing that. But good afternoon, good evening. I'm going to open up the chat in case, oh, sorry, you know what? If you could drop in, in the chat, if there's any questions, I'd like to have this like interactive. If anybody has any questions on some of the stuff I'm going to be presenting, that will be helpful. Excellent. All right, well, I'm going to assume you could see me right now, and then you should be able to see my screen in a sec. All right, perfect. Oh, you know what? All right. 1 sec. All right, does everybody see my slides? Be helpful to, yes, cool, excellent. I'll start from the beginning. All right, sorry, rough start. Did not expect to be so unprepared, but I work for a company called GitHub. A lot of you probably have heard of GitHub. This is me, and this is my title. I'm a developer advocate here at GitHub, and my main focus is on sort of creating engagements through the open source community, which is pretty apt since Hacktoberfest just started yesterday. And hopefully everybody, if you are in the chat, just let me know if you have a GitHub account, if you're interested in learning more about GitHub. That's literally why I'm here. Those are my social handles. So you can find me on GitHub as bduggy, and you can also find me on Twitter as bduggyyo. But I like to make the joke that I am Queen Bee. Beyonce is a superstar here in the States. She's actually a global superstar, so I'm pretty confident you've heard of Beyonce. But the best thing about Beyonce is that she has a lot of super fans, and I would say GitHub is very similar to as well. So my approach into presenting as the Beyonce advocate at GitHub, which I had here on the previous slide, is because I like to say I go to bat for the Hive. And this is a sort of a joke and a pun because Beyonce's superfan group is the Beehive. But as I mentioned, I work at a company called GitHub. We have 50 million developers who use the platform worldwide, which is excellent. It's a great accomplishment. But it also means that we have 50 million developers that come from so many different backgrounds, and I'm happy to basically have this conversation with you fine folks, about GitHub. And as I mentioned before, we have 50 million developers worldwide, but we have 100 million repositories as well. And then we represent almost, actually way over 3 million at this point, 3 million businesses and organizations. So there's a lot happening on GitHub, and it's a good sort of construct and thing to know, especially in your beginning of your programming journey. I understand that the group is a lot of students, just like a student-run organization, and you might not already have a GitHub account. You might not know sort of like the what GitHub is used for. But if I could summarize it, it's a better way to collaborate. And back in the day, other ways to do version control and save documents, the obvious way of having a thumb drive or saving a document onto your desktop and then emailing it to your colleague. The challenge with that is that sometimes the changes of that code and the construct could be different. So with things like Git, you have a thing called a Git flow, where you don't have to actually save the version of your code on your machine and wait for those changes to come to you, so that way you can make your changes. You actually have this thing called like a Git tree, and you can actually create a branch of the head branch of the Git file structure, and you can actually make your changes without affecting other people. And that's sort of like the highest level of Git. I'll have a link to a tutorial of how you can sort of engage and learn Git on your own using the lab course. But to further explain this, we have the thing called the Git flow. And the Git flow, this is exactly what happens. You have a branch that comes off the main stream of source control, and then you make changes through commits. And then when you make the decision to actually send your changes back to the mainstream, which would be wherever the company you work for, the class you're working on, the project you work on, where all the code's just going to be stored in that repository. That's what that looks like. You make a pull request, you have the discussion, and then you merge that pull request into the mainstream too. So this is the highest level of Git flow. Now, this is also source control as well. So some of the questions that you might be asking is why source control? And I think I answered a lot of them, but one of them being prevent code clobbering. So if you and your teammate want to make changes, it doesn't matter who saves them first or who saves them last. You have less opportunity to mess up the main code branch. Also, imagine if you're working in production on a Friday, you want to make sure that you're not breaking the entire product on a Friday, and everybody can feel safe that you're making changes and still working our features without blocking anybody else. Having the single source of truth too as well. It's nice to have your code hosted in a place that you can find it later. It's an excellent opportunity, to be quite honest. And the other one is ability to roll back to as well. Sorry, was somebody have a question? I think someone's unmuted. And then also being able to have audit and visibility. For companies that are backed by lots of investors, they want to have confidence that your code is not going to break anything. So being able to roll back and have that sort of visibility is pretty paramount. So I wanted to briefly talk about the idea of workflow automation, because I just covered very basic things of Git. And again, I'm going to have some links for you to sort of dig in deeper and learn this in a better realm. I did not have any expectations of teaching everything about Git today, but I want to talk about things like workflow automation, because once you have the sort of the baseline of understanding how to collaborate with the team, then you want to start thinking of things how you can sort of automate yourself out of doing some of the menial tasks. So GitHub shipped this feature called GitHub Actions, which before, back when I first started programming, you had to sort of build your own APIs using data from other sources. Now, today, GitHub has an API, so you can just leverage on your own and build really cool tools. The other thing is that you would also have to set up webhook events. So every time you want to send a message or a notification of something happening to trigger automation, all that stuff you'd have to build by yourself. GitHub Actions, it's built for you right out of the box. It's enabled for everybody in every repository. So it's up to you if you want to use it. If you want to learn more about this, I have a repository called Git Action Traction. It goes into some of the basics, and it's a video series, actually, of some of the basics of GitHub Actions. So definitely check it out. I also want to just give a really quick shout out of my YouTube channel. So this YouTube channel also, not only does it talk about GitHub Actions, it also talks about some beginner level content, so like GitHub pages being one of them. beginning level of getting your website up and running on GitHub. It's actually pretty trivial, and I highly recommend you check out that video that I actually published this week, and then some beginning actions content as well. So you can find me just by searching bdougie on YouTube as well. But what I was getting at about automating and finding out those repetitive tasks, there are going to be some things that you do where you just always have to do it. Like when you start your day, a lot of times we have stand-ups as a team in professional programming careers. My team at GitHub, we don't actually do a standing meeting. We don't get together and talk through what we're going to work on. Instead, I've automated a task to open up a GitHub issue. And a GitHub issue is a way for us to identify what needs to be worked on and how to triage different, I guess, problems with the application. So I open a GitHub issue, but I don't actually open it. I actually set up some automation through the API to actually do that on its own. And I've got plenty of content on this too as well. I'm happy to field questions too as well to go into detail. I do have my web browser and could show you how that works. But what I wanted to explain the concept too as well, and like as you are beginning in your programming career, or maybe you've been programming for a couple years, you should always think of the idea of being able to automate and hand off. So this right here is a basketball court in the US where I'm based. Basketball is actually, the finals are happening right now. But basketball is a very popular sport, and there's a lot of strategy that actually is applied to basketball. So in order to get the ball into the hoop, there is a move. It's called a layup. It's simply you do take the ball and then you lay it up into the hoop, and that's what that is. And in basketball, there's 5 different players on the court on your team. It is quite possible for one player to take the ball all the way to the hoop and then score a point. But just like programming, it's better to do on a team with teammates and actually collaborate. And that's where GitHub basically comes into play. So my recommendation is to collaborate and talk and make have the communication. Because you don't want to be the individual who takes the ball to the hoop every single time. Because then when you decide to go to another job or move to another project, everybody else doesn't know how to work or how to even like collaborate. And also as an engineering manager, I would actually personally not like to see that, because I know if you're the only one that's doing all the work, then there's a good chance that when you do leave, I'm going to have 4 other teammates that are not going to be able to be competent. So I bring this up because 1, you want to leverage your team, but also 2, you want to also do things that work and do them multiple times. So in basketball, they did some statistics and they found out of all the places in the basketball court, 31% of the shots at this point, so they call this area 31 because it's 31%. They had NBA statistics figured out that if you shoot from here, you have a 31% chance of it making it in despite of how many defenders are around you. And it's just by the angle and the arc of how you shoot the ball and lay it up. So if you know that, and like things like, you can think of it as the same construct of the Git flow. Like if you know you're going to open up pull request or you're going to have communication once a week, you might as well do something that automates for that activity happening. So I bring that up because this is a basketball play of, rather than doing the full court layups of one person scoring the points all the time, you automate to the point where someone can get the task or the feature developed to a certain point, and then there's a handoff or a pass. So that way, if you need to ship a feature, it's not the same person always doing it. So this is where you get like the construct of front end and back end. Like the front end developers might put together most of the feature to make it work, but then the back end developer can then work on stuff as well. But it's also very similar with things like running tests, automating QA, like all that stuff can be automated, and it's all stuff that you can learn now. And then when it comes time to get a job, this is stuff that people aren't really optimizing and looking forward to improving. So I come up with the idea of the pull requests, where you can identify once a day, you should review a pull request because your team needs your response. It needs your activity. So I bring that up because you can automate notifications to your team about when pull requests are ready. So that is that sort of sums up the automation piece. And I bring this up because I just recently did this stream with one of the maintainers for OctoKit, which is a library to wrap the GitHub API. This is a link to it. Sorry, this is a screenshot of it. It's called Open Source Friday. It's hosted on Twitch every Friday. I'll actually be doing one in a couple hours, to be honest. about the GitHub CLI. And then we're hopefully in the next month or so, we're going to have an India-based Open Source Friday. So it will be it'll be a better time. I know in a couple hours it'll be pretty late for y'all folks, but in a couple months we will have a stream that actually will be led by our India team and talking to open source maintainers on how to do these things like automations and improve stuff. So what I do is I recommend that you check out the Twitch channel, twitch.tv/GitHub, and you can have we can have conversations like this every week if you would like. And again, we will have I guess a better time stream for India time zone in the future. But I also want to talk about other parts of automation opportunity. There's a term called continuous integration, and continuous integration is the ability to take that Git flow and automate that to production. So you have your source control, which is your GitHub code, your project code on GitHub. You make changes to it. You could actually automate the process of running the build. So if you want to build and run tests, just at the point of you actually pushing that, so the screen may be blur or poor internet connectivity. Yeah, I'm not sure if it might be poor internet. Not sure if it's on my part or not. I've got a 200 down and quite a bit up. But what I'm getting at is you take the build, you pass the test, and then you move on to making sure that the test passed. Then you have a staging environment where everybody can test it, and then finally it goes to production. And that's where you sort of get the feature out live. So you automate the entire process of the feature development, so that way you can sort of optimize your team in production. And as engineering manager, you'll want automation. You want to optimize your team's workload, so that way you can continue to push through to production. Excellent. Here we go. So I bring this all up. I highly recommend a lot of these tools and automation tools are free for you as a student. So if you're a student and you have a student ID, check out education.github.com/pack, and it'll give you a ton of free tools to help automate your projects and also training to learn all these concepts I mentioned. I'm also going to mention lab.github.com. There's a lot of intro on the very bottom of the screenshot. You can see that there's a hello for GitHub world. You could also introduction to GitHub, as well as GitHub Actions too, as well as what I mentioned. So just check that out, lab.github.com. It's a free course, free courses. And actually it's built on automation too as well, for you to check out. So that ends my slides. I'm happy to answer any questions. I do actually, for some reason, I'd originally thought that I was going to finish that we're going to start 30 minutes later. So I actually do have 30 minutes to answer questions. And apologies if the internet was not as stable if you weren't able to sort of get the conversation. But so does anybody have any questions? Difference of GitHub and GitLab. The name? Yeah, so I'll be honest, I don't use a lot of GitLab. I've used GitLab before I worked at GitHub. And I guess the biggest difference is GitLab, well, I guess I can say GitHub. GitHub has a larger user base and a larger usage. So our features are to cater a broader market. Yeah, so GitHub, we have things like integrations to VS Code, using code spaces. And then quite honest, like, I think I would just recommend Googling that, because there's a lot of like guides and tutorials and posts on the difference between GitHub and GitLab. Like, to be honest, like, I don't do a lot of selling of GitHub. So I don't really, like, GitLab's not really top of mind for me. So I don't know if I can actually justify their product or even justify our product against theirs. So I would say use whatever works for you. Which is better? I would say GitHub, because I work there. So not a very good question. All right. GitHub Campus Ambassador Program. Yeah, so if you go to Campus Experts, so education.github.com, you can actually apply to be a Campus Expert. And Campus Experts are, it's a way to get closer to GitHub. The Campus Experts are actually the way we actually get interns into our company as well. So the Campus Experts, they tend to have first picked on getting internship. They also have first picked on sort of having into GitHub's network of employers. So yeah, on top of that, we do ask that campus experts help with training. So like leading sessions like this, we ask you to do this for your college. So lead sessions on learning the GitHub flow, learning how to do pull requests, issues, and etc. GitHub Education Pack is available for 4 years. So regardless of like when you sign up, it's valid for 4 years from when you sign up. Arctic Code Vault. Arctic Code Vault was it's an opportunity, and I'm just reading from the Zoom chat too as well. So if anybody else has any more questions, feel free to drop them there. But Arctic Code Vault is an opportunity for, we basically took a snapshot of all repositories on January 1st of this year. And then we took that snapshot. Actually, we had a snapshot onto simply a hard drive, and we put that into the Antarctica, into a code vault. So that way, in whatever years we want to come back, or if something would happen to the world, at least all the codes, the world's code on GitHub exists there. Now, the snapshot did get taken in January 1st. There's no plans for a future snapshot, but everybody who was part of that snapshot actually has a badge on their profile that says a member of the Arctic Code Vault. Good question. Any other questions? I'm curious if, my question to everybody in the chat, feel free to type in yes or no, but do you have a GitHub account today? And feel free to even drop your handle as well. I'd have to see your GitHub handle. Yeah, so quite a few yeses. I know we have a, yep. Excellent. And then I'm curious, does anybody have any open source projects at the moment that they've contributed to or plan on contributing to this month? Have contributed. I did want to share I did mention this to Ragesh, and I'll share my YouTube video of my first open source contribution. So I guess since we have some time, I can share this and then talk through it. But I highly recommend check out the video because I go into detail on how I gave my first contribution. I know this is the FOSS Asia, nice. Let me send this YouTube video to everybody so you can take a look. But what I'm getting at is my first open source contribution came out of a necessity where I was trying to build a project for a group of friends. And in order to solve this, we needed to actually have a web server that had taken WebSockets and then send that to Slack. So Slack being the platform for chatting. Slack was very new at the time, so they didn't have a lot of features as well as a very extensive API. And the way I solved the problem is that I actually was searching on Google and found my solution in a hosted library on GitHub. And I reached out to that person, and they actually helped me out and mentored me into contributing to their projects. So if I can, I highly recommend watch the video, but if I can just summarize that and say the best way to make contribution open source is actually making connections to the community and the maintainers, not actually going for issues first. Open source is about community. If you're not part of the community, it's harder to mentor you and harder to give you information that would be very valuable to career. So definitely reach out, join Discords, say hello, and become part of the community. How does scraping for specific projects in GitHub work? I think that is something you could probably Google, to be quite honest. But I could say this is how I've done it, and also I'm not sure if scraping is the right word, but if you're just looking for opportunity for, yeah, you'd have to clarify what you mean by scraping. If you're looking to do nefarious things and collect data, you don't have to do that because GitHub has a BigQuery model where you can just leverage that. So you can query big data using Google's backed version of the GitHub data set. So like, don't you don't actually need to scrape GitHub, to be quite honest. It actually gets scraped once a day into this. So I would leverage the query big data. If you're actually looking to do something that's pretty cool, definitely do that. The way I do mine is I leverage the GitHub API. So if I just want to, so this is my project. It's called Open Sauce. It's actually up on the screen, but I leverage this to manage my open source contributions. I built this for myself, and you can see. Actually, note I don't have any. My contribution wasn't there, but if you check out something I've actually have a contribution to, which is CLI. This is a way for me to keep track of. Oh, that's what it is. When I merge the contributions, they don't actually show up in here. They have to be active. But I'm able to manage data from GitHub issues, and I'm using this backed on the GitHub API, which is well documented. It's in the actual documentation itself. So check out the GitHub docs and the GitHub the API here. What are some tips you would suggest for beginners who made a GitHub account today? Yeah, my tip would be if you made it today, go to this site called lab.github.com. Sign in with your GitHub account, and then start with this introduction to GitHub. It'll teach you the majority of stuff that you would probably get in like a 3-month course. You can probably get it in a couple hours here. So hands down, be the best thing you can do. Again, this is lab.github.com. How to get contributions on your repository. The best thing you could do to get contributions on your repository is to write a blog post. No one's going to find your repository just by searching GitHub, because they more than likely have. This is not a knock, but like they probably haven't heard of you or heard of your project. So what I do, and I do this still to this day, even though I do have a following. I write a blog post on how I contributed to this project. I write a blog post on like new features. So if I went to open source, you can see I have like my release notes. I send them out as a video, and then I also do write blog posts too as well. So this is the way you have to put yourself out there and share. Otherwise, no one's gonna find it. Because searching, like there is over 200 million repositories on GitHub, so you're just one of those. So you have to put yourself out there so people can find it. Any tips for beginners to contribute to open source? Yes. There is a YouTube video as well. Oh, you know what? The end of the video that I just shared earlier, it's linked to this video, which I highly recommend, DigitalOcean. So I will be on the DigitalOcean channel talking about tips for open source maintainers and contributors alike. So you can actually see it here. And so definitely tips for contributing to open source. That would be my tips. But hands down, my tip is join a community and have communication with folks. Otherwise, you're just another name that shows up, and you want to be able to like have that communication and yeah, feel like you're part of the community. Because I keep saying this because I've done this myself. I've actually mentored people into contributing, not to my projects, but to other projects, because they're part of that community. So if you're not part of the community, you show up just like with a random question or whatnot, like your question will be answered, but like there's no mentorship that happens. So highly recommend join the community. If you simply just went to discord.com/open source, you can see there's a ton of projects that are already part of Discord that you can actually have a conversation, say hello, and be friendly. Being friendly and not demanding is probably the best way to get mentorship. What additional features are available for GitHub Enterprise plans? How is it different from free GitHub? Enterprise plans. So I'm a developer advocate and I'm focused on open source. So I will answer this very briefly because I do not sell GitHub Enterprise. But stuff that you do get for it is better security. Is probably hands down what you would want for GitHub Enterprise. So SAML and SOC 2. If you're a government agency, you use GitHub Enterprise for that. You can do self-hosted. So self-hosted meaning like if you want to host your version of GitHub on one of your own servers, because for security reasons as well. A lot of very popular corporations in the States and worldwide use GitHub Enterprise for that reason. And definitely check out this landing page for more details on that. So this will answer all your questions on Enterprise. Is there a methodology to making change logs? Yes, and it's different for every project. So every project has differences in how they prefer to do change logs. I automate mine. And I automated doing release notes. That's where I start. And all these release notes, I didn't write. But I'm able to know exactly what's happening in my project. And the way I do this is I use this project called Release Drafter. And again, you asked about change logs, but your release notes and your change logs are going to be hand in hand. So for my contributors, they need release notes. And then to produce change log, I use the release notes to produce a change log. But it's built on a GitHub action, and that's how this works. There is a max change feed, a project. It's a paid project, but for open source, it's free. So I would say there is a project that will take your, it looks like change feed is down. Oh, there it is. It's bad URL. But very similar, they'll take your release notes and make it into a nice little widget on your project. So I would say check this out if you just want to leverage this. They do have like a free 14-day trial, but if you are open source, you can also reach out and ask for open source plan. Excellent, good questions. What makes a good GitHub profile? Information. It depends on what you want to get out of it. So I'm personally actually happily employed by GitHub. And so my profile, I actually just automated adding my top 8 friends on GitHub. So something that gets people to come back and look at this, people come back and look at this and they actually find it a cool thing. I would also say pin repositories. Put some repositories that you would put on your resume. So yeah, highly recommend doing that. And then I would say ignore this contribution. The green squares is actually not really valuable to employers. It might be valuable to some employers, but if that's the focus, you're probably writing the wrong code. But yeah, a good profile, I would say edit your profile README, which I think, but I conflated your question to that. But you could actually create a profile README. I recommend you Google that and how to do that. It's pretty simple. It's just creating a README with your name. I would also say a good bio and contact information as well. It would be pretty valuable for people if they need to reach out to you for whatever reason. And put your GitHub profile onto your resumes. Put your GitHub profile on your LinkedIn. Make sure that people can find it. Because if you don't link it anywhere or put it on your website, then it's not going to be very usable because no one's going to find it just by randomly searching for your name. Excellent. Good questions. Any other questions? How can we be an intern at GitHub? Joining the Campus Expert program. I would joining the Campus Expert program is probably the best route because then you're established into the GitHub network. So github.com/ There we go. Yeah, so become a campus expert. Just being part of the network is actually the best way to make that connection. This is a picture of our 2017 summer class. Actually, this was 2017. Quite a few of the people in this picture are now GitHub employees. So yeah, again, best way is just join the education program. That's what it exists for. It's really to have people to have experts at GitHub grow in their career with us as they're in college. So all information about internship and stuff like that gets funneled to this group. So join that. can developers test drive their projects on GitHub? And can you clarify what you mean by test drive? Because I do have a video. Now, if you're looking to like build a website on GitHub, I have this video right here, which is up and running. Yeah, it gets you up and running with the GitHub GitHub Pages site really quick. Oh, it's under maintenance. It probably won't be until next summer then, because it's cyclical. Actually, I don't know. We are running the program. I think the challenge is with COVID, actually being able to activate in, because we have campus experts fly around their country as well as to the US. So because we can't do traveling, I think they've sort of slowed down the program and kept the existing campus experts. But I don't have a date for it. I would say reach out and, again, join the community and ask that question. education@github.com is the email. But test drive your projects on GitHub. Yeah, test drive is not really, I don't know. I can go so many different ways, but I don't know if I'd answer your question. So one, you can set up a GitHub page. So that's one thing you can do. So definitely check out this video on how to do that. Two, you could test drive by actually running tests and have those run on your project. So when I say that, all my pull requests have tests that run. And the way that works is, so I had a PR that came in for fixing the image flickering. I do have some video that they've sent, but I also get some interactions where I can now test drive the project here. So this is not GitHub, this is Netlify, but I'm able to actually link that directly in GitHub. So anybody can actually view the project and see if it's working, which as of now, it's not working. Question. Excellent. And I will link that YouTube video as well in case it's needed. But yeah, I'd let me see if I can get this. Excellent. All right. Well, if there's no further questions, I do appreciate your time and y'all coming through and having the learning about GitHub with me. I hope it was enlightening. If it was, definitely let me know by reaching out. You can follow me on GitHub. My Twitter is there too as well. I do answer DMs pretty regularly as well, so feel free to say hello, and happy to answer questions there. I will mention too that I do have a Discord that is going to be powering my future event, which is this. So one thing is that we do have the GitHub virtual meetup. Definitely sign up for that. We also have a GitHub India meetup too as well, which I think this will be the best place to find out about our future events that are happening in your time zone. So it looks like we do have an open source and Hacktoberfest kickoff on Tuesday. So definitely check that out. Well, you can talk to GitHub employees about that. And I also just want to shout out to my event that's happening in 2 weeks. And this will be, this one is called the Open Source Contributor Summit. And this is a place that we're going to be talking with these projects as well as some other ones that are not listed. And we're going to be teaching people how to do open source on those projects as well. I highly recommend checking out that event for how to be, so a question that came in, how to do a better contribution as a newbie. So I purposely make these videos so that way I can answer questions pretty easily. But this video, it's about writing blog posts, but it's the same thing as when you do a PR. So if you have a contribution, if you're not solving a problem or adding value, that's what this video is about. And you want to make sure that you're adding value. So if your contribution is something that you're not sure if it's going to add value to the project, the best thing you can do is open up an issue before you even start that. So real quick, since you asked the question, I would say before you even write any code, you should definitely check to see if that problem is already listed here. So like here's someone asked about a changelog, embedded changelog. I've actually had this open since June 13th, and we've had conversations about it, but we haven't shipped anything. So, and it looks like somebody in June 30th said they would do it, but they actually haven't done it. So if you're open to working on this, I would highly recommend that you check it out. Check out my project. But I would say to make a good contribution is by improving the contribution for other projects. So opening up a bug report if you find it, and then owning that bug report to fix it would be a great contribution. Improving documentation. So if there's like missing context in the documentation, you could do that there. But I would also really, the caveat would be first say hello to community. So my expectation is you would join the Discord, which I have here, and say hello, and then ask me the question there. And I've done this with other people. I've actually handed them stuff to work on with the solution already. How to make good documentation for your repository. I think some common steps would just be how to even run this thing. So I have actual how to run it. I have prerequisites here. How to run test. I've got explanation on how to actually run the staging environments, as well as the storybook, which is my design system. Got information to actually clearly state out that, how the authentication works, how does the database work, how does the service worker work, and where our community is. So like having those, this information is the best thing. A lot of times you'll have open source repositories, which I know I was sort of wrapping down, but that's a good question though. So I don't mind. So I have this project here, and this is an example of what not to do. So as soon as you have a project working and you want people to find it, what you should do is not do this. So right now I have a one-line explanation of what this is, and I have no context on how this project works or anything like that. So my plan is actually fix that eventually, but that is where I'm at the moment. So that's my recommendation: is explanation on how it works, and then go write a blog post about it and share it. If you don't share it, no one will find it, because you can't just expect that that folks are just looking specifically for this project. So you can see even my project, even though people know who I am, I only have 9 stars. Like people haven't really found this project yet, but I've also only started working on it a couple days, like 2 weeks ago. Excellent. Yeah, so that's me. I can go back to the full screen and just say thank you very much for joining. How to read documentation officially, make project development faster. I don't know if that's a question. Project development faster? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I can answer that question. How to read it more efficiently? Yeah, not sure efficiently on how to read it, but I would say if you have a problem, searching for that actual problem and not just reading it for the sake of reading it, unless you're just simply taking a tour and trying to identify if it's a good project. But yeah, that may my answer. But I just want to thank you very much for the folks that reached out and invited me here. I wish you the best month for Hacktoberfest. I've sent a lot of links. I would highly recommend join my Discord. We will be hosting an event in a couple weeks. It will be in your time zone. We've got maintainers for Hopscotch, which is an awesome platform based at an Indian maintainer, Lias, who's running Hopscotch, used to be Postwoman. That is a great opportunity for you to contribute. So definitely join that conversation. And Razan, thank you very much. And I'll see you on the internet.
Hello, sir. So,
yes.
Okay. I know it's early morning over there, and the time difference had its problems. You still came through and took this really awesome session for us and clear the doubts. Also shared your videos. I will definitely check it out. So, and I also personally like the basketball reference. Now, before you leave, we want to take a screenshot of everyone who joined to document this event. So we request everyone to please open the camera. It will really mean a lot to us. So participants are requested to please switch on the camera. Hello. we still need a couple of more guys. Guys, please open your cameras.
So, ready? One. Here we go. One second. Yeah.
Done?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So Brian, thank you so much
Yep.
for
Pleasure.
joining us.
All right. Have a good day.